European leaders just don't respect African leaders. Have a look at this.
Let me tell you, President Macron, I know you said yourself that there is some work to be done. Yes, there is some work to be done.
We've heard that the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, was in France and he was going to meet the French President, Macron. As you know, Macron has been wanting to join the BRICS. Actually, he's been knocking on the doors of South Africa, talking to people like Cyril Ramaphosa in order for the BRIC nations to let France in. But this is just something that is still being negotiated. However, back to the story. So President Ruto, while he was in France, he made some beautiful remarks. You know, in the conversations he was having with the President of France, Macron, William Ruto stood up for Africans. When asked tough questions, with his brilliance, Dr. William Ruto was able to stand to the defense of Africa, and he was able to represent Africa in the best way possible. Like, there's no other president in Africa you can never think of as Dr. Ruto, who represents Africa in the best way possible. So for this reason, I want us to dive into this video and have a look at it.
By the Africa Union, and I was told by the chairman of the Africa Union who was here with us, the Africa Union Commission, to invite none other than President Macron. You will be a keynote speaker. We want you to carry the gains we have made here to Nairobi, onward to UN General Assembly, and finally to COP28. The progress that has been made here is immense. Let me tell you, President Macron, I know you said yourself that there is some work to be done. Yes, there is some work to be done. But we have plenty of time between now and Nairobi. We have like 3 months. As I told you yesterday, the UN Charter was negotiated in 2 months. I also said that the Bretton Woods institution where Kristalina and Ajay are working, they were negotiated in a little village, a little town called Bretton Woods in 1945, in 3 weeks. We have a lot of time between here and Nairobi, and between Nairobi and COP28, we can fix this and it can happen for all of us. Thank you very much. The ultimate judgment of our success does not rest in our hands. In the coming days, the world will pass the verdict on us. But I must say, being part of this conference, we have made tremendous progress. I would have preferred to see a firm commitment building on the G20 debt suspension initiative to deploy a portion of the new development finance sought to provide greater fiscal space for heavily indebted countries by refinancing their maturing debts on more favorable and extended terms. Many of our countries lack the necessary fiscal room to take on additional debt. And we are saying this as we discuss this new financing system. We value the incredible support by the multilateral development institutions, World Bank and IMF. We also have a wonderful relationship with China. They finance our infrastructure development. The tension between the West and China is unhelpful, is unnecessary, and is as useless as the tension between the North and South when we discuss climate change. That is not necessary. We must find the formula that will bring all our financing to respond to 3 issues: urgency, scale, and to make it much more affordable. That is the conversation that we want to have, and hopefully we have laid the seeds of that conversation to happen. Again, thank you, President Macron, for making it possible for China to sit here and for the West to sit here, and those of us from the African continent to be in the equation. We don't take it for granted. We have also had a conversation and progressed one on a new global sources of financing for climate action and mechanisms that can be better insulated from national interest. This will move us close to addressing the climate crisis as a global common good, as opposed to something that we have to play a balancing act with the national interest on one end and do this at scale. So they can do this at scale, urgency, and which as if our existence depend on it. Let me clarify. Emmanuel, you've been immensely, speaking to you as a member of the G7, you have been immensely accommodative of all the divergent views that have come on the floor and in all the fora that we have enjoyed ourselves here. We are saying we want this time round a mechanism that involves everybody, where we are all paying, where we are all involved, and where we all decide. Because climate change is not about the North or the South, it's about all of us. And the discussion about carbon tax is a discussion that is a must-have. And on this one, we do not want the North to pay for the South. We want all of us to pay. Whether it is aviation tax, whether it is fuel tax, whether it is shipping tax, we want to pay because we want to be on the table. The conversation about who has not paid what is very energy sapping. It is very tiring. We want to have a different conversation. And I am very happy that that conversation has begun in Paris. And thank you, President Macron, for making it possible for this conversation to happen. We have agreed that we have to rethink. We are in a new normal. The new normal that came through the pandemic, into the Ukraine-Russia war, into the vagaries and what climate change is doing to us. Floods, cyclones, droughts, and the threat to humanity that we see. This new normal requires a new approach. We're all clear that up to 52 countries are facing debt distress. I listened to my sister Kristalina, and you know, Kristalina, we have a wonderful relationship. You have been immensely supportive of Kenya. But looking at this context and listening to the discussion about the SDR, the allocation, the reallocation, the application, the verification, the assessment, the next, I get a headache. Honestly, I sincerely think that there is a much more creative way of dealing with this. The same way we did it during COVID. There is a way we can do this so that those in distress, the 52 countries to start with, how do we make it possible for them? Since they are already assessed for the debts they owe, how do we make them enjoy the benefit of a pause or reschedule or whatever you want to call it, so that they can have immediate liquidity and create space for themselves. That is a conversation that I think we should have. And let me say, this will move us closer to addressing the crisis that we have today on matters liquidity.